Well, it's here, whether we're ready for it or not. Today is the Sunday before Ash Wednesday. There's kind of like a buzz in the air, a little bit of excitement. I don't know if it's because maybe there's Super Bowls going on or what, but there's something in the air today. What a perfect way to spend the last Sunday before we enter all the seriousness that is Lent. Let us, in between the preparations of today, reflect on our lives. Maybe some of us are already planning on what we're going to give up, wondering how we're going to do without that cup of coffee, or maybe if I buy my Diet Cokes today, I can have 2 a day, and then by Tuesday night I can be finished. Some of us are like that. Life is always full of unexpected twists and turns. Just when we think we've got it all figured out, something will come around and remind us that we're not as in control as we thought. This week, as many of us do, I woke up and I thought I was doing what I needed to do to be at work on time. I woke up at 6:45, I had to be at work at 8. Left the house by 7:15, no problem, right? Get to 6th Street and we are at a complete stop. I ended up getting to work at 8:50. But there's a story behind all this. There's a lesson, for me at least. The whole time I was calling Jordan like, what are they doing? Why would they decide to do work today? Of all days, at 8 o'clock in the morning, why today? Unfortunately, when I got to the end of the traffic, it was made very apparent to me that they were cleaning up a fatal accident. And immediately I thought, the nerve of me to think that I was in control of everything like that. This was something that I left to work early, along with everybody else. We probably left on time, but God had God's plan. That's where today's readings come in. They remind us of the importance to have compassion. They remind us to trust in God. Today in Leviticus, we heard the strict rules for people deemed unclean. When they were deemed unclean, they were separated from everything they knew and they loved. It sounds cruel, but they did the reason why they did it was for safety. I mean, if somebody was sick, they had to separate them to keep everybody else safe. It's a little graphic the way they describe it in Leviticus, but what the people might have looked like. But what about those who are suffering in ways we can't see? Father Jamie last week talked about the Band-Aid. I don't know if any of y'all remember the Band-Aid and how a Band-Aid is a visible symbol that somebody's healing. But what about people who are healing from things we can't see? Things we don't know about? Many of us suffer in silence. This morning, the Gospel of Mark tells us the story of Jesus' encounter with a leper, a man shunned from his community, and who many considered to be untouchable. The man comes to Jesus asking for healing, and what does Jesus do? Jesus doesn't just heal him. Jesus heals him by touching him. You see, when Jesus did this, Jesus was also making a sacrifice, because as soon as Jesus touched him, Jesus too was considered unclean. Imagine for a second, what kind of sacrifices are we willing to make to create a closer relationship with God? What kind of sacrifices are we willing to make to bring others closer to God? Imagine for a second what joy and happiness this man must have felt being reunited with his community. Last week, Father Roy was so gracious and went to the nursing home with Sister Mariana and I. And one of the guys there named Manuel shared a story with us about how, mind you, Manuel's in a wheelchair. And aside from all that, the thing that Manuel wanted the most was to be reunited with his family. Manuel was separated from his family, not because of things his family did, but because of feelings that he was having. It was when Manuel shared this story with us, it was at this time that I realized that Manuel realized that he was kind of like the leper, and he wanted to be reunited with his family. Today's second reading, while quite short, is a clear message for all of us, that we can find Christ in the big things as well as the small things. Whether we're eating, drinking, brushing our teeth, we can find Christ and find time to be with Christ and God in everything that we're doing. Extending our hands to those in need is the way that we can spend time with Christ. As we prepare ourselves for the week ahead, as we prep our minds and hearts for the journey that we're all about to embark on this week, let us examine our own attitudes towards those who are marginalized or suffering. Saint Bernadette was famous for saying, if one dream could fall and break into 1,000 pieces, Never be afraid to pick one of those pieces up and start again. Have faith in God. This week, I pray that each and every one of us finds a way to press that restart on our relationship with God. Pick up those pieces and